Well, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Fantasy Football Today here on Monday, April 28th. What's going on? Dave, Jamie, Heath, how you feeling with the NFL draft behind us now?
Busy.
Yeah. The
hard work is over. Bring on the hard work.
You guys been working on your rankings all weekend. I want to know, let's do it right now. Give me one rankings update that you want to talk about. Could be a veteran you moved up or down. Could be a rookie that you slotted somewhere. Wow. I didn't realize I'd be so high or so low on this guy. Give me one. Heath, I'm going to throw it to you first. Give me like one interesting one you want to highlight.
Well, I think really the most interesting ones are probably the Risesr, because the general rule is most veterans are going to be fallers coming out of the NFL draft because they get replaced by rookies. And that's especially true at running back this year. But I am finding myself uncomfortably high on Jeudy. Just a fantastic. I know they drafted two quarterbacks, but they drafted them so late that I feel a little bit more hope that we're going to get double-digit games from Joe Flacco. And if we don't, they've got a pair of rookie quarterbacks. So maybe if they go to the rookie will not be an absolute atrocious quarterback. They didn't draft a number 2 wide receiver, so it's Jeudy and Tillman and David Njoku, clearly atop the target list. This is going to sound outlandish, but I think if Joe Flacco plays 15, 16 games, Jeudy could be a top 12 wide receiver.
Well, let's see what he was weeks 8 through 15 with Jameis Winston.
Top 3?
He was third per game. I mean, he was on pace for 1,900 yards on 168 targets. I mean, that's really good per target. That's a lot of targets, but still 119 catches, 1,900 yards, 7 touchdowns on 168 targets. That was Jerry Jeudy's pace. In that stretch, Cleveland quarterbacks were on pace for almost 5,000 yards, 29 touchdowns, and a hilarious 32 interceptions. They averaged 42 pass attempts per game and 294 passing yards per game. So that was mostly Jameis Winston there. So Flacco can maybe be like a Winston light, but so where do you have him ranked, Jeudy?
He is definitely in the teens at wide receiver. Probably going to settle right around 16 or 17.
Was it Amari Cooper? Sorry, Jim. Go ahead.
Oh, do you fear the quarterback change at some point, though?
I fear it a little bit. I fear it a little less because they didn't take Sanders in round 1 or round 2. Like the fact that I don't really fear Dylan Gabriel taking the job from Joe Flacco, and I don't really I don't know why Kenny Pickett's still on the roster, but I don't know. And I'm not ready to rule out the fact that Shedeur Sanders could be okay as a quarterback.
So give me some names. Can you give me some names that are around him in the rankings?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
So I think Terry McLaurin.
Oh, all right. Dave, Jamie, McLaurin, or Jeudy?
McLaurin.
I would say McLaurin, but I haven't adjusted my receiver rankings yet. That'll be today. I think Judy's got a chance to be clearly special. You bring this up a lot, Adam, when we talk about Jeudy in the week 8 on, that Tillman missed a good chunk of that time also. And so, the start of the Jameis post Deshaun run for him was Tillman. Those first 3 games, I think was 3, were pretty dominant. So I don't view that necessarily as a huge detractor for Jeudy. I think they all can kind of rise up, as a result of Flacco taking over because of what he did that stretch run, those 5 games of 2023. My concern is that it's not necessarily just that it's Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders and the draft capital they spent on them, and obviously Kenny Pickett being, somewhat of just a throw-in player that they had this offseason. It's the fact that Flacco's 40, and does he get the long leash to play out the string here? Because if you're the Browns, as a franchise, you want to lose, right? You want to get the chance to get your franchise quarterback next year. These guys are sort of, I think in a trial period. see what Dylan Gabriel maybe can do if he gets a couple starts. See what maybe Trader Sanders, you would hope it would be him, gets a trial period if he gets a couple starts. Like, at what point do they say, okay, Flacco went 4-1 for them, got them in the playoffs? Like, they're not winning anything with Joe Flacco. I don't think that's a shocker, but they can hang around with Flacco, and I think that's I wonder, like, where Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski come out on that. Like, you obviously don't want to lose, but you also don't want to win. Like, they're sort of in this like purgatory.
No, they want to win. Come on, they want to win.
Obviously,
you love that angle, Jamie.
Look, if you were to say to them right now, they have a legitimate chance to win the AFC North and compete for a Super Bowl, they're obviously going to take that.
Yeah.
And Joe Flacco clearly gives them the best chance to do that. Nobody's going to argue that. It's not going to be Pickett or the rookies. But like, their whole goal was to get as much draft pick capital for 2026 as they could. They did that. Their whole goal is to get out of the Deshaun Watson contract. They're doing that. Like, this is not a team that is right now set up to compete at the highest level.
No, and when they struggle, they will go to the rookie because why not?
Again, to circle back on my stupid tangent, but that's my question is, like, does Jerry Jeudy succeed to the level of a guy you're drafting in the teens if Joe Flacco is starting 5 games?
All right.
I don't think he'll succeed like Amari Cooper succeeded in 2023. I mean, that was bonkers.
Jeudy did last year. But I still think he'll
pretty
be good.
close to what Jeudy did last year.
Yeah.
I think you try and draft Jeudy away from that ceiling, but still, I've got him as a number 3 receiver, but top 30 and somebody that I absolutely would love to have on my team to start the year.
Jamie mentioned age, and so this was just a fun thing that I realized again. I think I've had several Jerry Jeudy age realizations over the years. But do you know that he's closer to Drake London's age than Terry McLaurin's?
How old is he?
Yeah, he's young.
He just turned 26. He's younger than Jalen Waddle.
He's younger than Jalen Waddle. Wow.
All
right, I'm liking this conversation. I just want to get to some more names here.
Well, I'll tie it into 2 guys that make me nervous, which is the 2 Bucs guys. With the Ibuka drafting and Evans, not being as great as he was when Godwin was healthy. Godwin now back, and obviously Jalen McMillan doing what he did. Like, I wonder, Heath, do you like Jeudy better than the 2 Bucs guys?
Yes.
Wow.
Because like I dropped. That's one thing. The only thing that I did was Thursday and Friday so far from the draft in terms of adjusting rankings there, and like those 2 guys make me nervous as hell right now. Evans and Godwin. I'm still ranking them right now as number 2 receivers, but they move much closer to Jerry Jeudy than they were prior to the draft. Like, it's Godwin. Is he healthy? Does this draft pick sort of signal a sign that he's not going to be 100% early in the season? And again, as we talked about, those first 7 games for Mike Evans were not what the last 6 or 7 were when Chris Godwin wasn't there. So now you're throwing in a better Jalen McMillan, a high-profile rookie, and a guy who was outperforming him and is probably going to get more targets than him. Like, it's nerve-wracking for those 2 guys, at least for me.
Makes me want to target Baker Mayfield because he's going to slip. At best, he's QB7 coming off the board this year.
He could be QB6, depending on how people view Mahomes at this point.
So Evans in the first 6 games of the year was number 14 overall, but number 23 per game in full PPR, number 21 per game in full PPR. And Chris Godwin was the number 4 wide receiver per game. So I just struggle with this one because of the injury to Godwin. I don't know what we're getting from Godwin. And if Godwin is not 100%, if Godwin's not 80%, then Evans probably going to be awesome again. Do you guys, all 3 of you, how many of these Bucs receivers, of the 2 of them, are going to be top 24 receivers in your rankings?
2.
They both will. But again, like I had them, I think both, and me with older receivers at this point, he's going to be 32 with Evans. I had them both, I think, like top 18. And I think Evans might have fallen to 18. And Godwin is barely hanging on in the top 24 right now.
I think I have them 23 and 24.
Oh,
okay. I need some names then, because I still have them both top 20. So let me give you some names of receivers I've got behind them. You tell me if they're ahead of them in your rankings. McLaurin.
Yes.
Ahead.
DJ Moore.
Ahead.
Yep.
Xavier Worthy.
Yep.
I have them ahead of Xavier Worthy right now, but I'm really, really uncomfortable with ranking the Chiefs.
Garrett Wilson,
Ahead.
I have the Bucks both ahead of Garrett Wilson.
DK Metcalf,
Bucks both ahead.
Bucks.
Marvin Harrison Jr.,
I think I have it. Evans, Godwin, Harrison.
Marvin Mims. I'm just kidding.
You know,
But
Mims is a big
it's
one.
interesting. It's interesting how you guys feel about those two. And I don't think you're wrong to feel that way, especially with Evans.
You have Cortland Sutton ahead of them?
I've got something behind them.
I
I
got
said
Sutton ahead of him.
No.
Man, these are going to be some fun debates. You know what I'm
Ooh.
seeing now that was interesting? So in the first 6 games of the year, on a per game basis, Godwin is top 5. Evans is just inside the top 24. The last 7 games of the year when Evans comes back, Evans is 5th per game and McMillan is 26th per game. So it's almost exactly the same thing, just with Evans being as good as Godwin and McMillan. Yep, you get what I'm saying.
You got to hope that McMillan really just took advantage. If you're in the Evans Godwin camp, like fully, you got to hope that McMillan just took advantage of Godwin not being there, and that Ibuka is, hey, you're our guy in 2026. Like that's what you got to hope for. Because if they're all 4 getting targets, it's going to be difficult for all of them.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think is, I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba didn't really take away from Metcalf and Lockett as a rookie, right? I'm just trying to think of like first round picks.
But that was 3 guys.
Well, yeah, I don't really know. Okay, I'm not going to get into all that because it's just too much of a rabbit hole. But all right, we'll take a quick break here. And just real before we do that, Heath, what's coming up on FFT Dynasty?
We will be unveiling the top probably 24 or 36 tomorrow on Tuesday's show. On Friday, we will have a Superflex startup mock.
Okay. We will be right back on Fantasy Football Today. We got to start talking about where these rookies are being drafted. There's some very encouraging words about Quinshon Judkins' potential role from Andrew Berry, the GM of the Cleveland Browns. And we'll get to all of that, rankings, risers, and fallers after this. All right, quick round of news and notes. Saints GM Mickey Loomis said that Derek Carr is the starter if he's healthy. He also said there's going to be a quarterback competition. I guess he meant with Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler. But Derek Carr is the starter if he's healthy for the Saints, according to their GM. Jim Harbaugh, head coach of the Chargers, he said that he sees both Najee Harris and Omarion Hampton, the rookie they drafted in the first round, as starters. I feel like we expected that kind of comment, and we'll see how it plays out. Head coach Shane Steichen of the Colts, he praised the rookie running back DJ Giddens' ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. Maybe we'll see that role for him. GM Andrew Berry of the Browns is what I was referencing before the break. He said Quinshon Judkins can be a bell cow. And guys, your thoughts on this? It seemed like he was saying Dylan Sampson is a little he said he's undersized for how physical he is, but that he has untapped pass catching potential. So that sounds like Sampson's going to be more of a third down kind of back and not necessarily a deterrent for Judkins on the early downs. Is that how you guys are seeing it? And then obviously Jerome Ford's there as well.
I think that makes sense. You know, I mean, when you look at what these two guys profile as, you know, they've been so accustomed to, at least in the Kevin Stefanski era, of having, you know, in essence at times 2 physical running backs, because Kareem Hunt, it also can also fill that role when, you know, Nick Chubb was there. But you know, they were looking to find a Nick Chubb replacement. And I mean, look, it'd be awesome if Judkins can do what Nick Chubb did during his prime. He was amazing. Chubb was. But Judkins certainly profiles more of that role, fitting that role than Dylan Sampson does. But that's a pretty good 1-2 punch. You know, if Sampson can come in and be sort of a speed threat, you know, change of pace guy and catch a few passes out of the backfield. It was funny because, you know, the Bucs was kind of just a off the top of the head conversation throwing it in the conversation that we just had. But like the guy, I was going to say, like the rankings, risers and fallers for me were almost over the weekend of Judkins, who I really liked going to the Browns at first, and then a little bit nervous with the Sampson pick, and then, you know, Loveland with the addition of Luther Burden. You know, it's like 2 rookies that went up and down right away. But yeah, I think Judkins is ended up in a really good spot.
Okay, other news. The Panthers signed Hunter Renfrow, who did not play in 2024. Does this matter at all? No.
I'm
Special
sure it
teams
matters
guy.
to Hunter Renfrow.
Yeah, it does matter. But for fantasy, it does not. Dre Greenlaw, linebacker for the Denver Broncos, open for a bounce back season here. He has a torn quad, but the Broncos say he could be ready for training camp. Or they expect him to be ready for training camp. The Jaguars signed defensive end Emmanuel Ogbah to a 1-year, $5 million deal. GM Howie Roseman of the Eagles said that Dallas Goedert is on the team is part of the team as we speak. So we will have a bonus podcast when he gets traded, if he gets traded. ESPN Patriots beat reporter Mike Reese does not think that Jalen Polk is guaranteed a role with the Patriots. He was a second-round pick last year. And Washington is going back to RFK Stadium, or the site of RFK Stadium. They are going to build a new stadium in Washington, D.C. Congratulations. All right, rookie rankings. So where's Jeanty?
He's one.
Excuse me?
He's number one.
He's RB1?
You said rookie
Rookie
rankings.
The 101 rookie
Oh, no,
rank.
sorry. Where's Jeanty in your running back rankings?
Oh,
Yeah.
4.
4.
Are we golfing? The disgust from Jamie there. All right, RB4 behind.
I like your stupid jokes. That was bad.
I don't think I could justify him as RB1 or 2. But definitely, but why are you putting him behind Gibbs? I assume everyone has him behind Gibbs when we know Gibbs is a much different running back when David Montgomery is healthy.
I have Gibbs 5.
Oh, okay. Who's 3?
I've got Bijan, Barkley, and Achane ahead of him.
Achane. Okay. Dave, what's your top 4?
Bijan, Barkley, Gibbs, Jeanty. And I know that there's a Montgomery issue with Gibbs. He's overcome it before, and we know what he's like when Montgomery isn't there. Am I giving up a couple of points per game by taking Gibbs over Jeanty? Yeah, probably. But I'd rather have the running back that I know is an amazing player and could have an even larger role, especially if the Lions are in more competitive games this year, and Gibbs just gets a larger role in his third season.
All right. So I don't want to spend the whole show on Jeanty, but what could go wrong for Ashton Jeanty? Like, Bijan was actually a bust as a rookie in fantasy because of Algier, basically. But what do you think could hold Ashton Jeanty back?
His offensive line could be a starting point. We've talked about his offensive line as a strength, and it's not bad in Las Vegas. And I expect them to be coordinated better now that Pete Carroll is there leading that ship and Chip Kelly's there. And like, the play design should be fantastic. But I've seen a game where Jeanty's offensive line could not help him, and the results were bad. And if something like that were to happen most weeks, then Jeanty's not going to be even close to being worth a first-round pick, much less a top 5 pick. So that's one thing that can go wrong. The other thing that can go wrong is, are the Raiders going to be a team that scores a ton of points this year? Now, obviously, Jeanty's going to, hopefully, fingers crossed, score more than anybody else on that team. But if that team's going to average, 20 points per game, that doesn't leave a ton for Jeanty. It certainly makes him potentially a touchdown scorer every week. Of course, there'll be weeks where he doesn't, but it does make me worry about him compared to Lions, Eagles, and yes, even the Falcons. Those are teams that should put up plenty of points from week to week.
Okay. Where is Omarion Hampton? Well, who's your next rookie running back, and where did you rank him?
Hampton is in the round 5 range.
I've got him in round 4.
In full PPR, I'll take Henderson second, and he'll be in the round 4 range.
Ooh, that's bullish. I want to get back to that, but can you tell me, are these guys top 20 running backs, top 24? Can you tell me some of the running backs that are around them?
Give us some names.
So I talked about, that the running back position right now looks kind of a little similar to last year. Last year, we were talking about this trio at the end of a tier: Mixon, Kamara, Ken Walker. And I don't know where, I don't know where those guys are, but Kamara maybe is like the back of that tier again this year, perhaps. And then you have Aaron Jones, James Conner, Tyrone Tracy before the draft. Pacheco maybe like in the round 5 range. Is that where you slotted these rookies in?
Yes.
I'm gonna have a
still
hard.
Mixon, Kamara, Walker trio ahead of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm gonna have a hard time getting the other rookies into the top 20. I think that 21 through 24 is a pretty good range for them, but there's 20 running backs I don't think I can rank them ahead of.
Who are like the last 3 in that group? 18, 19, 20.
Chuba, Swift, Connor.
Very interesting group there. Very interesting group. Chuba, because
Swift was one of the big risers, right?
He's a riser.
But look, it's the same situation he had last year in terms of backfield competition, and he was pretty disappointing, I'd say.
Right.
So
yeah, there's one thing that's changed.
there's a lot.
2 things have changed. Coach and line.
Yeah. Okay, so Dave and Jamie have Hampton in that range. Heath has Henderson. Who else is in that range? Did you have a big tier of rookie running backs in that range?
Harvey's in that range.
Harvey is
Judkins is in that
absolutely
range for me.
Kaleb
Judkins
Johnson
too for me.
in that range for me.
Judkins, Harvey, and Kaleb Johnson. Okay. Johnson clearly last.
No.
He is for me. I'd rather have Harvey and no, sorry. I'd take Johnson over Judkins right now.
I would too.
Did anyone give thought to putting RJ Harvey of the Denver Broncos first of this group, second rookie running back behind Ashton Jeanty?
No.
Yes, I thought about it.
Not really, but I think it's like and I especially in rookie drafts, but also when evaluating these guys, like we knew how great and deep this running back class was. They did not necessarily go in the order that we were anticipating, except for Hampton going second. And they've got a varying degree of competition they're dealing with in year one. So I really think like with that entire group, just reasonable people can disagree about which one you want to draft higher. They're all high upside, low end RB2s.
Why not Harvey ahead of them? Because I just feel like if you look at Judkins, I don't see a ton of catches. Could be wrong. I don't see a ton of catches. You look at Henderson, I don't see a ton of carries, at least not at first.
Right.
I'm very hopeful that he'll just be so much better than Rhamondre Stevenson that they'll hand over the keys to the car, but it might take a little while. You look at Harvey, I see that's the combination of catches and carries. And as I mentioned on the show, by ESPN's metrics, the best offensive line in run blocking and pass blocking last year. By PFF's metric, the best pass blocking offensive line in Denver. I think they were 11th in run blocking. So we don't have that concern for the Broncos, and the history of Sean Payton running backs with pass catching, all that, blah, blah, blah. So I think it's an easy case to make. I don't know that I would do it because he was never really, on all the prospect rankings lists, he was never viewed like Henderson and Judkins. But he was the next running back off the board after those two, about 22 picks after. So I think it's an easy case to make. Why, Heath, you said no. I'm going to bring you into this because I haven't spoken to you about these rookies yet. I had Dave and Jamie on Saturday or Friday night. Tell me why you didn't even consider RJ Harvey for the Broncos ahead of Judkins on the Browns, TreVeyon Henderson on the Patriots.
I, like most people, thought Harvey was a tier behind Judkins, Henderson, Hampton coming into the draft. And Harvey did catch about 20 passes a year at UCF each of the last 3 years. But I think he's capable of playing that role. I don't think he's been so good as a pass catcher that we can just say for sure he's going to be the primary third down back in Sean Payton's offense. And so if he's not, I don't know that he has a certain target edge over these other rookies. Like there's especially a lot of questions. Like he kind of threw one of the biggest wrenches into the running back rankings because he got drafted ahead of these guys and because he went to a spot that we were pretty excited about. If it had been TreVeyon Henderson going to the Broncos, I might project him for 60 catches as a rookie.
Yeah.
But Harvey doesn't have that history. He could do it, but I think there's still a lot of questions about how touches will be distributed amongst the Broncos running backs.
Yeah, I was kind of referring to first and second down catches. He should still, because the Broncos do that a lot. So, but sure. Fair enough. All right, moving on. How about let's see. How about all right, Kaleb Johnson is ahead of Tyrone Tracy now?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm currently debating whether Cam Scadaboo should be ahead of Tyrone Tracy.
Yeah.
Scadaboo.
They're close in my rankings.
Jamie would love to hear Adam Sandler talk about Cam Scadaboo. I think we all would. It's a great call. So who's around Kaleb Johnson?
Jaylen Warren.
Quinshon, Judkins, RJ, Harvey, and Omarion Hampton.
How much separates them? Like, can you just tell me the rankings with the veteran running backs in there with these guys?
Well, I think we're still finalizing those. They
Yeah,
published-
Johnson's a high end flex.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of view him just kind of stepping into Najee's role with maybe a few less catches. So Najee had 260 some odd carries last year and 36 receptions. Like, I don't think he's getting 36 receptions. I also think we're seeing a more involved Jaylen Warren, who in 2023 had about 40 more carries than he did in 2024. Now, again, he missed a couple games there. So I think we see a split. And, you know, then you got the stupid wrinkle of Cordarrelle Patterson because it's Arthur Smith. But I think Kaleb Johnson has an opportunity here to, you know, lead them in carries, which for me, I don't know where you have it projected, Heath. It's going to be around 200. And maybe 20 catches, you know, so 220, 225, you know, maybe 230, 240 on a, you know, runaway season if things go great for him. But he's a physical runner on a team that, you know, is going to want to run the ball. The biggest question for both of these guys in terms of the Steelers backfield is the quarterback, you know. So if it's Mason Rudolph, there's not a lot of upside there. If it's Aaron Rodgers, there's a certainly higher ceiling that they can get to, even though he's, you know, coming off a down year, but he's going to be more capable than Mason Rudolph, even at his age. So that offense looks a lot better if the quarterback position improves, however they get it done. So, you know, we were talking, I forget who it was in terms of points. You're saying Jeanty, you know, they can score enough touchdowns.
Right.
Like, I don't see the Steelers scoring a lot of touchdowns with Mason Rudolph under center.
I'm not sure if you see him getting a ton with Aaron Rodgers under center.
I feel better about it, though.
Yeah, of course. But I think that's the right way to look at Kaleb Johnson, is just plug him right into the Najee role. I would say 36 catches is close to the ceiling, but I think he's capable of being decent as a pass catcher. But you're drafting him on the hope that he can score 7-8 times over the course of the year and have a couple of big games and maybe unseat Jaylen Warren from that running downs role. Because at the beginning of the year, I imagine it's going to be a split. But there aren't as many. There are some exciting running backs in that flex range that we're talking about. And I agree. I think he's a flex. But I don't know if he's going to be so good. I guess it's part of the profile that he could be, that he should go ahead of a ton of these guys. Pacheco, Aaron Jones, RJ Harvey, ahead of Kaleb Johnson.
How
The thing
about
that worries me about Johnson and Judkins, and those are the two that I struggle with, is the receptions. You know, because they, you know, you're banking on them hopefully getting to 1,000 rushing yards, which we know is not easy even for rookies. And you're counting on them to be, you know, as close to double-digit touchdown guys as they possibly can, which again is a huge ask. So who can get to 800-900 yards in their backfield with 6 to 7 touchdowns? Like, and that's, again, I haven't settled on it yet. Right now, I feel a little bit more comfortable with Johnson than I do with Judkins. But by the time I hit publish on my rankings later today, it'll probably be Judkins over Johnson. You know, just those are the two that I struggle with most. Like, I think Harvey's upside is a little bit better for this season. You know, just looking at his offense, that's why I like him a little bit better. So even though Heath is right, the profile going in was not as high, the expectations not as high, but the landing spot to me is much better. You know, especially just because of the coach.
how many of these running backs? This would be 5 running backs. We'll move on from Jeanty because he's obviously an answer. So how many of the next 4 running backs? Hampton, Judkins, Henderson, Harvey, Kaleb Johnson. So that's 4. Sorry. Oh, no. Oh, that's 5 with Hampton. Hampton, Judkins, Henderson, Harvey, Johnson. Okay. Sorry about that. 5 running backs. Are you drafting ahead of Tony Pollard?
3.
2 for sure. Maybe Harvey also, but 2 for sure. in Hampton and Henderson?
I'll probably go 2, but that is right in the range. It's going to be a mess.
You know, I can pour a little cold water on Tony Pollard. I had not done any Tony Pollard research until this past week. I did not realize how different his splits were. I'm not sure if I mentioned this on the air or not. His splits were with Tyjae Spears and without Tyjae Spears. He played 9 games with Spears averaging a normal snap count. Okay, because Spears left 2 games early. So yes, A's are statting this. But 9 games with a normal Tyjae Spears, and Tony Pollard was on pace for 236 carries and 11.6 PPR fantasy points per game is what he averaged. In the other 7 games that he played, that's 5 without Spears and 2 with Spears leaving early, 328 carry pace. That's almost 100 more carries, and he averaged 13.8 PPR fantasy points per game. In addition, I think this might be a little fluky, but Tyjae Spears was the goal line running back when they were both healthy, when both Pollard and Spears were healthy. Carries from the 2-yard line or closer in the 9 games. Spears had 4 and Pollard had 0. That I'm not sure carries over, but that just should be it should be mentioned. So I kind of thought Pollard was held back. He was RB22 per game last year by the Titans being so bad. They ran the fewest plays in the NFL inside the 5-yard line. He scored 6 touchdowns or five total touchdowns on over 300 touches, which is horrible. But he was also, so much of his production came with Tyjae Spears out. So when Spears was out, they simply did not use another running back. I mean, very, very sparingly. So I think I actually can make a case for every rookie, maybe not Kaleb Johnson, but the other 4, and obviously Jeanty ahead of Pollard.
I think the Heat set's going to be messy, which I think from our perspective, the answer is yes. Like, who's better than who when it comes to our rankings? I think the draft, though, like this range could be awesome. You're getting these guys at such discounted prices for what their potential could be. I'm going to be very nervous about Aaron Jones, especially after what Kevin O'Connell said and the addition of Jordan Mason. But he's going to be in this range. That's great value. Pacheco's going to be in this range, and if he does bounce back, it's great value. Pollard in this range, great value. Whatever rookies sort of trickle into this range have the chance to be great. As Heath just said. Then you have Jaylen Warren now getting pushed down, Najee Harris getting pushed down. These guys are still going to be really relevant on some really good run offenses or in the usage that they'll get. It's going to be fun to draft these guys. Again, 0 RB, hero RB guys are going to love this because it just made this, round 5 through 8 range just so robust of some guys that could be really legitimate. I don't want to say superstars, but, fantasy starters, which is great.
Okay, we got to wrap up running backs here, and we got to get to the veterans that have moved in the rankings. Guys like Trevor Lawerence, Javonte Williams, Tyrone Tracy moving down, Rhamondre Stevenson moving down, Rome Odunze maybe.
Where does J.K. Dobbins go?
Where does
he's the one.
Right. I don't think you're going
to get one of Chubb or Dobbins to the Bears, right?
I was thinking more Dallas.
Could be.
Dallas is talking like they love what they have. They have 4, and 2 of them are draft picks. So if they're cutting a veteran, they're giving away money.
I don't want to be super excited about a 5th round pick, but if the Cowboys enter training camp with Jayden Blue and Javonte Williams, I'll be pretty excited about a 5th round pick.
Oh, it's going to be the Miles Sanders show.
And Miles Sanders, I always forget about Miles Sanders. Yeah. All right. Well, let's take a quick break. We'll wrap up running backs, and then we'll get to the rest of the positions. We'll be right back.
They want to take this place from us. My family is in danger. My wife is lost to me, and I don't have time.
1923, new season now streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus.
Just to finish this up, Jamie, how many other running backs do you think are going to be in your top 100 overall players? How many rookie running backs? Anybody else? You got guys like Bashal Tootin for Jacksonville, Cam Scattaboo, etc.
I think Tootin, Scattaboo, and Blue all have the opportunity to, be right on the cusp, but probably a little bit after that.
Yeah, I think Scattaboo will be in my top 100. Nobody else will be that close.
Scattaboo
at least initially, training camp.
Right.
Jacksonville could change and Dallas could change.
Sure. Scattaboo is 100th in my PPR rankings.
What day of the week is Halloween this year? I'd really love to do an NFC home game preview so we can talk about Scatterboo would really be all over that episode, I would think. A lot of puns there. All right, to the wide receivers.
Friday, October 31st.
Oh, that's
wow.
NFC home games. I hope the Giants.
Darn it, I'm not on Friday's show.
You can see it already. Who? It's going to be Giants, Cowboys game of the week. He'll fool Dave.
He'll have a whole song with scary organ music.
Dave, who do you like better this week, Scatterboo or Tracy? Hit the song. He'll make me say Scatterboo.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so
game of the week. Boo!
how do you rank the rookie wide receivers? Give me your top 3 for 2025.
Oh man, I couldn't help myself. I put Hunter first. I did it. I put it over McMillan, and then I got to scroll down in my rankings to find the third guy. It's Golden, but only the first 2, Hunter and Tet, are in my top 100.
Hunter, Tet, Golden. Agreed.
I go Hunter, Tet, Besh.
Boy, that is so interesting. Why Besh over Golden?
Just think the opportunity. Golden obviously has I think a better pedigree. Hopefully it'll be the case based on how the Packers drafted him. But it's such a crowded receiving room. It just scares me.
Is it?
Why Besh over Trey Harris? Besh goes to the Raiders, 3 picks after Trey Harris to the Chargers. By that logic, why Besh over Harris?
Well, because I think, you look at what the Chargers still have, and there's a guy that's going to dominate targets. I think they're going to be a very run-heavy team. That's close. They're all close.
Yeah. It's a similar situation.
Well, and Quinshon Johnston is probably, like, I know we like to make Quinshon Johnston jokes, but he's probably more competition than Besh is going to have to face for second at wide receiver, right?
Yeah.
They have a tight end. They have Bowers, right? So if you forget about just that wide receiver, you're just talking about competition for targets. You've got Bowers, Myers, Besh. You've got McConkey, Johnston, Harris. I kind of like Harris's opportunity better there, but I could see. I mean, it's debatable for sure. Am I wrong?
No, they're all close. They're all in very, I think, competitive situations with their own rosters. So I don't know. I just like the situation for Besh. Going to a team like the Raiders that needs an outside threat. I think he'll fit in well with what Geno Smith does and what Chip Kelly wants to run. I don't know. I just like the fit.
Does Besh have a shot to lead that team in targets?
No, but none of these guys do.
I think he has a better shot than
Golden
Trey Harris
does have a shot to lead the Packers.
Golden absolutely does.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I'm sorry.
But if he leads the team in targets, it might be 93 targets for the 87 for Jayden Reed. I don't want to cap him at 93 targets, but
might be more than what Harris and Besh get.
110 maybe.
110, yeah. 110, I think would be pretty greedy. I think for Golden.
I have a hard time with that because, like, you've got a coach who has not had a number 1 wide receiver, but he also has not drafted a wide receiver in round 1.
He had Devontae Adams.
Right.
But
Devontae Adams got a bunch of targets.
Yeah. They haven't had a number 1 since Devontae Adams.
Right.
I would point out in the rookie year, the first half of the in Christian Watson's rookie year after Devontae Adams was traded, first half of the year, they still had Aaron Rodgers and Allen Lazard was very good. And then the second half of the year, Christian Watson got healthy and he was very good. He was a top 12 wide receiver in that stretch. But no, you're absolutely right, Heath. They haven't had a number 1 wide receiver since Devontae Adams. Golden will be worth watching. We didn't mention Jayden Higgins here. So we had a comment that said Kyle Williams could be better than both of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's a guy with not a lot of competition.
Patriots.
Yeah, you referenced the Mike Reese report. They're counting pretty heavily on Stephon Diggs coming back and being, I think, that guy again. Who was Douglas, I said, could be the third guy.
Super DeMario.
All right, so Ibuka and Burden, are they top 50 wide receivers?
In rookie rankings, yes.
I have them, I think, in the top 60, but not in the top 50.
And just in case you've all forgotten, Ibuka drafted in the first round to Tampa Bay, and Burden drafted in the second round to the Bears. So we like the players. We don't love their 2025 destinations necessarily.
Yeah, I think the Burden one's probably more interesting just because Ben Johnson's first year had DJ Moore and Rome Odunze and chose to take Luther Burden there. And so, like, we all just pretty much said, okay, Cole Kmet's dead. He took Colston Loveland, and Colston Loveland's going to dominate targets. It makes me a little bit worried about the wide receivers in Chicago, that Burden has a very special skill set. And Ben Johnson, the guy we all think is one of the greatest offensive geniuses in the NFL, is the guy who got him.
And obviously, y'all probably remember, if you don't, the Bears made the most significant upgrades to their offensive line this offseason of any team, you'd have to say. They signed center Drew Dahlman to a 3-year, $42 million deal. They added Dahlman. They added Joe Tooney via trade. They added Jonah Jackson via trade. And then they used their first 2 picks on Loveland and Burden. They're all in offensively. Pretty wild. We had Harris going to the Chargers, Besh going to the Raiders. I feel like Brian Thomas Jr. and Ladd McConkey were in the 100 to 115-ish range last year in drafts. Do you think that's where Trey Harris and Besh end up?
I think probably a little later than that. I think later. Harris will go before Besh.
As of now.
I think he probably will. I will just wait for Besh.
Would you rather have Matthew Golden? Let's see. Who's a good... or Jayden Reed or Matthew Golden?
Reed by a couple of spots.
I've got Golden as of right now.
There is one good reason to draft Besh, and that's for team names. You can come up with a lot of great team names with Jack Besh as the...
What if I had a picture of Sean Connery and my team name was Your Besh with a question mark?
That's not the one I was thinking of.
I was thinking more like Besh better have my money, but that one works too.
What were you thinking of, Heath?
Yeah, I was on Dave's line of thinking.
Son of a bitch.
Your Besh. All right. Well, I think I've got the creative one then. How about Deebo Samuel of the Commanders? Or how many rookie wide receivers are you taking over Deebo Samuel?
I think that's a great name to bring up in comparison to the rookie wide receivers. For me, the answer is 2.
None as of now.
Wait a sec. Wait. You're not taking McMillan or Hunter over him, Jamie? Or you're
No, not as of now. No.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
As of in my first run of the projections, I have Hunter 2 spots behind Deebo, so it would also be 0 like Jamie. I think the intoxicating upside of Travis Hunter probably means that I will have him ahead of Deebo in the final April rankings.
Where is Hunter then for all you guys?
I actually have Deebo at 36 and Hunter at 37.
I have Hunter at 30.
I have, let's call it Hunter at 27, Deebo at 28.
All right, here we go. It's going to be said now. A year ago, it was said he is the Malik Neighbors.
Yeah.
It is going to take one report for Travis Hunter to become a 3rd round pick, and we might be like,
it's a little different.
We're gonna be wrong.
But here's a difference. There's
Right.
an enormous difference. Like Brian Thomas is a 2nd round pick.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're going to take 2 Jags wide receivers, one in round 2, one in round 3.
What if he's playing defense?
I know, but that's the report. That's the he's going to play most of the wide receiver snaps and sparingly at quarterback, and then bam, he's maybe.
That's pretty much what they've said so far.
Yeah, I know. I think you guys are too low on him. I think you're too low.
I was trying to convince you.
I have ahead of Travis Hunter.
Go.
Okay. And remember, Travis Hunter is sharing the field with Brian Thomas Jr. And remember, Trevor Lawerence is their quarterback. We can talk to Heath about that. DK Metcalf is ahead of Travis Hunter. Devontae Smith is ahead of Travis Hunter.
Wait, what are you saying?
Jeudy
Wait, hold on. Time out. Heath, you said no. You're saying no, you wouldn't. What does the no mean?
I would not take DK Metcalf ahead of Travis Hunter.
Ooh. Is that because of the Pittsburgh quarterback situation right now.
And the fact that like there's a carbon copy of him on the roster, and I'm not sure they're going to throw 500 passes.
Okay.
All right, keep going. Sorry, Dave. So who was after Metcalf?
Metcalf, Devontae Smith, Jerry Jeudy, Jordan Addison. And Addison's going to be an easy one for Hunter to get ahead of.
Right.
And then other names that are even ahead of the guys I just said are like Marvin Harrison, Cortland Sutton, Garrett Wilson. Yeah, but that's it. Like, I'm skittish on Olave with the quarterback situation in New Orleans. Give me Hunter. I'm skittish on Pickens now that DK Metcalf's there. Give me Travis Hunter. Calvin Ridley has a new quarterback. Good for him. Give me Travis Hunter. The Niners wide receivers, someone's going to be great. I don't know which one. Give me Travis Hunter.
How spicy is this? Travis Hunter over Chris Olave.
Yeah, I've got Hunter one spot ahead of Olave.
Yeah, that's not that spicy.
I guess
So
I'm being too conservative.
yeah, where are you in the rank? Where is that in the rankings, Dave? That feels like 24-ish.
No, that's 30th.
Oh,
He's
really?
my number 30 wide receiver, and I have him as a round 6 pick. So the idea that he could be this year's Neighbors, you know what it's going to take for that to happen is Brian Thomas Jr. missing time. And if that happens, then yes.
No, well,
Travis
hold on.
Hunter.
For him to be this year's Neighbors in terms of, being top 10 receiver, maybe. I meant he'll be a huge riser in the rankings as he gains momentum.
But it's going to be
And I'm
hard,
sorry,
Adam, to do that
I
when
don't
you've got
see
Brian
it.
Thomas Jr. there, unless we're
I don't
sinking
see
Brian
that.
Thomas Jr.
No, I'm okay with that. They don't have Christian Kirk and they don't have Evan Ingram anymore. They could have a passing offense that is entirely concentrated on these two absolutely elite talents.
Well,
I
we keep or at least we just did. We keep trying to recreate Detroit and Chicago, and you could do the same thing in Jacksonville with Tampa Bay.
Sure.
I mean, they have they and this is why I think everybody's excited about Blue is he's your boy. Is the late round running back, that goes there, so or is it Tootin? I get confused.
Tootin went to Jacksonville.
Yeah, so Tootin, excuse me, going to Jacksonville, as the next Bucky Irving. This could be Evans and Godwin, and that would be clearly amazing if you're getting that level of production from two wide receivers. Now, granted, Liam Cohen only had them together for 7 games as the offense coordinator, but you could see what the path to success was for both those guys. And it's clearly there's a path to success for these two guys. Now, the biggest question, and this is, I'm sure, what Dave was alluding to with Heath, is will Trevor Lawerence be the guy to get them there? Everything we saw from Brian Thomas, and I know it's just really sarcastic, but was with Mac Jones and not with Trevor Lawerence. And so when he was with Trevor Lawerence, he wasn't doing the same type of things. Now, you'll point out, Adam, which I'm sure is Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram were healthy then, and Thomas, was sharing the field with some established veterans. But in any event, Thomas has now ascended to these heights that you hope is going to carry over, which is why Heath said he's a 2nd-round pick. You can still make a case he's a borderline 1st-round pick. Will Travis Hunter get enough offensive snaps? It would be criminal if they didn't do that to him, because he's, I think, equally talented on both sides of the ball. But I think the stardom path is a little bit easier to get to on the offensive side. And hopefully that's where they are going to give him the majority of playing time, to which case he will be a preseason riser and somebody that should be drafted probably inside the top 30, if not top 24 wide receivers.
Okay. Rookie tight ends. Dave, how many rookie tight ends are in your top 15?
2.
Okay. Give me the rankings.
I've got Warren at 11 and Loveland at 13.
Who's 15?
Kyle freaking Pitts.
Wow. All right. Who's next? How close is the next rookie wide receiver?
Tight end.
Tight end. Pardon me.
Elijah Arroyo is 23rd.
23rd. Ooh. All right. How about Jamie Heath? Jamie, I'll go to you. Your rookie tight end rankings.
So initially, after the 1st round, it was Loveland over Warren. I'm going to probably switch that just with the crowded receiving core. The receiving core getting more crowded in Chicago. But again, this is going to be one that I struggle with a lot of who's the better fantasy option. It may just end up settling on Loveland because of the quarterback situation. But in any event, they're both 11 and 12 right now.
Okay. And then who's the next one and how close? To
Ferguson is 13. Kraft is 14. Kincaid is 15.
that would be Jake Ferguson.
Jake Ferguson, yes, not your favorite, Terrence Ferguson.
Right. Yeah, Ferguson actually was someone I was expecting to be a big loser. Jake Ferguson, that is. And it didn't happen. So he's still perhaps a fantasy relevant tight end. Heath, your tight end rankings?
Loveland 11, Warren 15.
Loveland 11, Warren 15.
And listen, Warren's pre-draft pedigree is doing a lot of work to get him to tight end 15 for me as a rookie, because I think this is an awful situation.
Indianapolis for him, yeah. And I one thing that was so interesting because I really like the landing spot for Arroyo, but I wanted to talk about CeeDee Lamb. I guess we really don't have time to talk about him, but he was someone they added no competition. He could have like 200 targets. But I was like, where did CeeDee Lamb rank in just the Dak Prescott games? And he was wide receiver 6 per game, buoyed by that huge performance against San Francisco. But one guy who was ahead of him in weeks 1 through 9 on a per game basis was Cooper Kupp. And, I just looked at Cooper Kupp's season because he was wide receiver 4 per game in weeks 1 through 9. He scored 32 fantasy points in week 1. He scored 7.7 in week 2, and then he got hurt in that game. He missed more than a month. He comes back in week 8, scores 16.1. Puka's back in that game. He scores 21.4 in week 9. Scored 20 or more in 3 of the next 4 games. So we're all the way to like week 12, and he's scoring 20 points almost every week, Cooper Kupp. And then in his last 3 games combined, he had 9.3 fantasy points on 9 targets. It was kind of an adventure for Cooper Kupp, but that'll be a topic for another day. But obviously that's relevant for Elijah Arroyo in Seattle. Maybe
he's 32.
I know, but he was really good last year until the last month of the season. It was bizarre. Maybe he can get off to another good start.
You know what he saw?
No.
The cliff.
Oh, I thought maybe he saw like Benjamin Button and, well, no.
That would be great.
That'd be the opposite. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about our veterans here who have moved in the rankings. Heath gave me a list of risers and fallers. This is what I want you to...
Only 52 minutes in the show.
Yeah, I know. I think we've had good conversations about the rookies. We'll do this quickly. Heath, I'll give you the name that you put.
He spent time going through this list, and
yeah, he's the only one.
Yeah.
You tell me where they moved, and we can get a quick reaction. Trevor Lawerence.
He is up to QB 15, which seems low for a guy that I was really excited about what happened for him, but he was outside of my top 20 quarterbacks before the draft.
Does anyone have Lawerence higher than 15th?
No.
16th for me.
Just give me like 2 names right ahead of him.
Tua Purdy.
Perfect. Bryce Young, Heath, was a riser for you.
Yeah, he is a 2 QB starter. Hooray.
Okay. All right, let's talk about DeAndre Swift. He's a running back riser for you. Where do you have him?
He was someone who projected inside the top 24 before the draft, but I didn't want to rank him that high because I really thought the Bears were going to do something during the draft. And now it seems like the worst case scenario for him is they go out and get a Chubb or a Dobbins or something like that, and he still gets to play a much lesser version of the Jahmyr Gibbs role. And so I think you can confidently draft DeAndre Swift right around RB20.
I think my new favorite thing is when someone says something that's potentially dirty and just Dave's quick reaction to it.
Love it. Swift was RB24 last year per game, and that was with career low 3.8 yards per carry, 6 touchdowns in 17 games. He was not the goal line back. We'll see how that shapes out this year. Javonte Williams, yeah, big. It's a little bit of a surprise for me. I would say big surprise that the Cowboys didn't draft a running back on the first 2 days. But yeah, go ahead, Javonte.
Same thing I said about Swift, except it's top 36 and not top 24. Like he projected as a top 36 back before the draft. I didn't want to rank him that high because he was so terrible in Denver. But now there's like a 45% chance he's the best running back in Dallas, maybe even higher. He's probably still doesn't go till round 10 or round 9, but he is definitely someone as a 0 RB drafter that you might just happen to have an RB2 for a few weeks.
Just have the barf bag nearby when you draft them.
All right. Probably what we were saying about Chuba Hubbard last year. You know?
Not at all. Not at all.
No?
No.
Well, we thought Jonathan Brooks would take that job pretty quickly.
No, but we knew that he wasn't going to be ready at the start of the season. And so the whole idea of drafting Chuba was you'll get off to a good start with him and then see what happens.
Well, we never thought that Chuba could be as good as he was, though.
No, of course not. And I guess there's a chance that Javonte could pull off the same thing.
Yeah. All right. Jerry Jeudy, you talked about Cedric Tillman as another rankings riser for you. Where is he?
Again, another guy that just probably moves into the top 50 wide receivers who was not in the top 50 wide receivers and has a chance to be a top 36 wide receiver.
And Ricky Pearsall was a riser for you. Does that extend to Juwan Jennings as well?
Jennings was a little bit of a boost, but I already had him as a number 3 wide receiver. I think I'm still lower on Pearsall than most, so you should probably ask these guys how high they are on him, but he definitely moves up because the 49ers did nothing.
Well, consider that a way of asking these guys. Guys, where are you on Ricky Pearsall?
I have them back to back, essentially. Jennings and Pearsall.
They're close to me. Jennings is at 38. Pearsall is at 40, right in that round 7 turn range.
All right, some rankings fallers for Heath. Tyrone, Tracy, and Najee Harris. I do not want I do not want to draft Najee Harris at all.
Nope.
Tracy, I don't quite feel the same way. See where he ends up, but obviously Cam Scadaboo is not Omarion Hampton, so that's the difference there. But where are you feeling? What are you feeling here?
I just don't think Tyrone Tracy's Najee Harris either. And the Chargers offense might score twice as many touchdowns as the Giants this year. So I will draft Najee Harris before Tyrone Tracy for sure. But they definitely were both fallers. Najee was a potential fantasy starter, kind of in that same Swift range where we didn't want to rank him that high because of what could happen. And it did happen in Najee Harris. It didn't happen to DeAndre Swift. I think Tracy could be anything from the best running back on the Giants who finishes as a borderline number 2 to completely irrelevant by week 6.
Just general question here. Scadaboo was a round 4 pick.
Mm-hmm.
Typically not really a huge impact player.
Right.
Where
What was Tracy?
a round 5 pick.
Right.
And all that still typically not, and right, like, and especially out of the gate. I mention this all the time, but rarely see a day 3 pick in week 1 come out and have a big role. You know, it just doesn't happen. Are we just kind of making an exception? And I think we should, because Scadaboo, he was the 3rd pick of day 3 in a deep running back class. So is that why, you know, kind of look at him differently than most 4th round picks?
I don't remember who said it, if it was Emery or Ryan, about just the short lifespan that he may have in the NFL. And do the Giants, you know, see that in camp, maximize that potential, make this their 1-2 punch, and maybe Scadaboo is the leader of the group right now. I also don't think, you know, for what it's worth, I know he's kind of always just been sort of like a steady floor type of player, but Devin Singletary probably still gets some work too.
Yeah.
And that could be a little annoying for both these guys. So I would take Najee over Tracy personally, but it's close.
All right, maybe I was too harsh there. I guess I kind of feel like Najee's going to go ahead of Tracy. So in terms of draft value, I will not be drafting Najee Harris.
Oh, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're both going to end up being in tandems. It's a matter of, you know, who has the better chance to lead their tandem. Tracy has the better chance to lead his tandem, I would think.
Yes, exactly what I was thinking.
If things play out the way we want it to, you know, but again, what Najee does is, I think, frustrating for what we want to see, because we saw it in Pittsburgh. I mean, you know, he doesn't get hurt, so we don't get the backup will eventually take over, at least so far in his career. You know, 4 seasons he's played every game, and he doesn't fumble. He's got 3 fumbles in his career. You know, so we saw what happened in Pittsburgh. You know, the more talented player, maybe, if you want to put it that way. You know, Jaylen Warren was playing enough that it was good for him, but not to his, you know, maximum potential. I don't think that'll be the case with the Chargers, because again, 1-year investment, you know, whatever it's $5 million or it could be, you know, up to $9.5. It should be Hampton's backfield. But even to your point, Adam, about day 3 running backs, you know, sometimes we don't see it with the, you know, early draft picks getting this type of workload that we still want to see. You know, it could take, you know, a couple weeks as well.
Absolutely. 2nd round picks. I make that case. Oh, it's only 1st round picks historically that jump into a big role right out of the gate. I'm hoping differently, obviously, especially for Judkins. Let's see. Rhamondre Stevenson, right? So TreVeyon Henderson, second round pick. Rhamondre Stevenson, a faller for you. It wasn't even a debate for you to put Henderson ahead of him, was it, Heath?
Nope.
All right. Anybody? Where's Stevenson compared to Najee Harris and Tyrone Tracy?
Just behind them, because I don't think it's as like there's a chance that I could still see Najee being the goal line back. I think Najee could be the RB2 for the Chargers and score more touchdowns than Tracy as the RB1 for the Giants. Stevenson might be the goal line back too, but I don't think they're going to score as many touchdowns as the Chargers.
I would take Stevenson over Tracy and Harris simply because I want to see Henderson get the work. Like, will he be? He's going to get. He should lead them in receptions in their backfield. Maybe as a team, but
yeah,
he should lead them in receptions. Will he get those opportunities on first and second down?
Jerome Ford is a faller. That one is obvious. Odunze a faller for you. What about DJ Moore?
Just a little ding for Moore, but a bigger ding for Odunze.
So Odunze or Travis Hunter?
Hunter, for sure, by a lot.
A lot.
Okay. Seems like wide receiver is pretty deep because, mentioned some good receivers there in that wide receiver 30 range. If Odunze is not even a top 36 wide receiver, I think it's pretty cool. Jayden Reed, a loser, and Cole Kmet, a loser. Heath, you have something in common with the Orlando Magic. You lost to the Celtics yesterday. Is that right?
I did not lose to the Celtics. I did lose to Ray Allen, who was coaching the opposing team. Their team name, oddly enough, was Ray Allen Select. So it was a great experience for the boys to get to go through the handshake line and tell Ray Allen good game after his team beat us.
Did they win the whole thing?
They won the division we were in.
Yeah.
It's against Heath Cummings Select. That your
it was not Heath Cummings. It was a funny thing. A parent came over to me after the game. I said, I don't know if you realize it, but there were so many people over on the sidelines in that game talking about, do you know who that coach is? Do you know who that coach is? I said, yeah, Heath Cummings. He works for CBS.
Yeah. Is he football guy? Yeah.
That's probably the biggest celebrity coaching game of AAU South Florida ever.
I think that moves me to 0-3 against former NBA players. Ray Allen didn't beat us near as bad as Rajah Bell did 5 years ago.
I had some 0-3. You said who's the third?
Sean Pearson.
Oh, I don't know.
Former Jayhawk from like the 80s, 90s.
Oh, yeah. I had some emails I was going to read, but I'm going to save them for a show later this week. If not Wednesday, it'll be Thursday. I'm sorry to D-Mart, Ben, and Matthew. You had good questions, and I will get to them. We've got mock drafts. We've got rookie-only dynasty stuff, and we've also got just regular standard NFL or fantasy football format mock drafts that we're going to do tomorrow. We're going to talk about them on Wednesday. Heath will talk about the dynasty ones on the Dynasty podcast. So thanks, everybody, for watching and listening. This is Fantasy Football Today. We will talk to you on Wednesday.